Hello to everybody tuning in and watching us on YouTube. It's always so great to spend some time with you and to share some insights and information. Every week, we're looking at matters relating to wealth creation, investment, and wealth management, along with a plethora of experts in our field. Now, if you happen to have a question during the course of the discussion, please feel free to share it on the YouTube live chat, and we'll, of course, try and get to as many as possible, obviously time permitting. Now, if you're watching a recording of this, please feel free to also leave a comment and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. My name is Damien Anderson, and today we're going to be tackling arguably one of the most exciting forms of investment, and that is, of course, property. Now, we could talk for hours on a number of aspects relating to property, but today we're going to focus particularly on property ownership and management. So you may have asked before, why is it necessary to spend the extra money every month to get someone else to look after your property? Well, if you've ever attended one of the Wealth Masters webinars, then you'll be familiar with the concept of OPT. And if you don't know what that is, it means other people's time. So this is a concept that sits at the core foundation of the Wealth Masters ethos. And as you walk the journey with us, you will understand why that is. Now, our expert today is a man who started out as a plaassinkie, and he attained his qualification in agriculture, but instead of growing fruits and veg, he decided to grow his skills instead and started rooting himself as a businessman from a very young age in the city of gold. He was doing business countrywide in the services, sales, and marketing sectors with offices in Gauteng, KZN, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and the Free State. 10 years ago, he made the decision to move his focus to the exciting property industry, and he acquired his real estate license and owned several real estate agency franchises where he specialized in the commercial sector of the market. Now, throughout the years and his travels, he's been able to gain a deeper insight into the property market to understand the needs and the demands, as well as understanding where there were gaps in the market. 6 years ago, he made, which in my opinion was probably one of the best decisions, which was to relocate to Cape Town, where he continued in the property profession. And about 2 years ago, he made the other best decision by joining the Destinata Group and the Wealth Masters Club. He now heads up the property division at Destinata. Please help me welcome Emile Grobbelaar.
Hello, Damien. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And now, I mean, a lot of people have transitioned from Joburg to Cape Town like yourself. How have you found the difference between the two cities?
Well, first of all, if you do business in Cape Town, you need to slow down a little bit, but you have a lot less stress. I'm not talking about the ocean only. The people down here, they tend to move a little bit slower than Gauteng. And I think that's probably why I spent my time in Johannesburg while I was still young. But it's not really an adjustment because right now the world is so small. You do business in every big city. We still do business in Johannesburg as well as KZN and Free State. So it doesn't really matter where you are, but you need to keep up with the pace that the other cities are moving at.
It's true. And technology, like you said, has made everything so much smaller. And I also guess it's true what they say, that the money's in Gauteng, but the heart is in the Kaap, which I found to be absolutely true.
Very true, very true. It's good for the soul to have an office down here.
Exactly. And of course, there's always wine, which, we never complain about. But now, jumping to the topic at hand, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your dealings in the property markets?
Well, while I had the franchises in Gauteng, as you mentioned previously, I specialized in the commercial sector of the profession, while I had agents that were doing the residential side of business. At that stage, obviously, we started off with the sales sector and gradually progressed into the rental side of business. When I joined Destinata Properties and Wealth Masters here in Cape Town, they were solely a rental management service provider to the Wealth Master clients. And slowly but surely, we started bringing in sales stock so that we can present the appropriate investment opportunities to the clients, according to what we preach at Wealth Masters. So with regards to exposure to the property and the investment side of it, I think the commercial side, where you work with numbers rather than a kitchen that you have to like or the wife has to like, I think that assisted me in assisting our clients to make decisions regarding the right investment, rather than it's a nice property in a nice area and my wife likes it. If you do investment in property, that is not what you're looking at. The numbers are what needs to make sense. Firstly, it needs to give you what you want and what you plan to get in the future from it as well. So I think my background and my speciality in the commercial side of the real estate profession has assisted me greatly to enable me to work with our clients towards investment rather than a house to live in.
Absolutely. And now, Emile, you have been heading up Destinata Property. You've been there with him for about 2 years or so, but how long has Destinata Property been in operation?
We are pushing 9 years now, 8 years and a bit.
My goodness. Okay, so quite a bit of history there. And
yeah.
It's 9 years. I mean, there's obviously been a lot that's happened. You know, there's the good, there's the bad, but I don't think there's ever been anything quite as destructive or, you know, as much of a hiccup as Corona. So how has this been since the start of lockdown? And is there a sense of normality back in the property industry yet?
Yes, Damien, sure. Yeah, lockdown and Corona never been seen before, so nobody knows exactly what will happen, what should happen, what shouldn't happen, what the impact will be, either tenant side or landlord side, or even what will happen with the pricing in the future. So what we've just gone through has never been seen. The impact on it, we're still trying to sort out. But the bottom line is that obviously everybody had to be patient. I'm talking about people that's supposed to pay for their rental property, the landlords that's supposed to get the money and pay their accounts on it. Everything was impacted. So everybody had to be patient, and that include people that couldn't pay anything. We are fully aware of tenants that lost their jobs, or perhaps didn't lose their jobs, but didn't get any income. So they couldn't make payment anyway. And then landlords get to the point where they need to evict people. Obviously, you can evict anybody. It needs to be done legally. But during lockdown, all evictions were stayed until a level was reached. I think it was level 4, basically, where the actual eviction could be done. Although the judge perhaps issued the eviction order, but it will only be served once the people can physically be removed. So even if the landlord were lucky enough to get an eviction order for a tenant that stopped paying and perhaps didn't want to move out after he could move out, even then he had to wait until the sheriff of the court could actually go and remove it. So remove the tenant. So it was very, very difficult. And a lot of people, even the big companies dealing commercial property as well, they had to be very patient with their tenants, giving them discounts or allowing them time to pay up. One thing that I do want to say, especially the landlords out there, you don't need to give discount on the amount that your tenant is owing you, but allowing time to pay up. They will pay up. When we dealt with a lot of tenants, and the good tenants will pay. You need to be fair. And usually those guys, they discuss the problem with you. You know, their income is the problem, and obviously the expenses as well. But he will add, the good tenant will tell you, I will add 1,000 Rand or 500 Rand extra every month, and allow him the time, even if it takes another year. He will stay with you. He will actually not move out. But on that point, if they do move out, get a commitment from him to pay the money while he's living somewhere else. And if he doesn't, then obviously get debt collectors and get the money from them. But the They know that they're living in an apartment. They know that they need to pay rent, and the good tenants will pay.
Nice. Emile, I want to find a little bit more about evictions a little bit later, but in terms of managing agents and having managing agents, now I know you've got a lot of experience in that. So why do you feel it's important to have a managing agent managing your property portfolio versus just doing it yourself?
Well, Damien, that is a very good question, because a lot of people think it's an easy job, something that they can do while they have their own businesses going, or perhaps while they have their own job. He probably owns one, perhaps two properties, and he thinks it's not a lot of work. Partly it could not be if you've got the right tenant and the property is in good condition and everything goes well. But does he know the legal aspect that goes with tenancy? If you have a job and you have 5 or plus investment properties, the work itself becomes too much. You will not do it properly, especially when you need to place tenants. You do the proper vetting and verifications of where they earn their money, where they work, where they've been staying previously. And I want to start there, because that is actually where you prevent problems later on. And I'm not referring to Corona and lockdown problems. I'm referring to a tenant earning money and is just not paying. So if you do your homework upfront properly, then you will see the type of person he is. If he does pay accounts, if he looks after his accounts, he pays on time and he pays in full. That behavior is very, very important. And that will tell you that this guy will pay you. If he owes you rent, he will pay you. But if you don't do that job properly up front, you will come short later on. And it takes time. So if you don't have the time, if you are busy, or if you run a business, give that job to a real estate agent. That is their job. You are not, perhaps you're an accountant. You're not a letting agent. You're not an estate agent. They are the professionals. And what goes with it is the legal aspect. Do you know the Rental Housing Act? Right now, the Consumer Protection Act forms part of it as well. Do you know when and how and the terms that need to be issued on letters of demand or letters of breach? If you don't know it, the agent does know it. They are properly registered, they are professionals, they will know what to do. But also, if I can, you said you were wanting to get to the point of eviction. Once again, if they don't do, or if you are managing your property yourselves and you don't do the steps before legal eviction correctly, you will not get a tenant evicted. And the real estate agent knows what to do, knows what to put in writing, knows when to do it, the time that needs to be given for the tenant to rectify a breach or to vacate the property. So if you're not well versed in everything from placing a tenant, running the accounts, attending to maintenance, especially, geezers, they burst on either Saturday afternoons or Sundays, so if you don't want to deal with that, then get a real estate agent to do that for you. And obviously from the legal aspect, if you're not well versed in all those facets of tenancy in investment property, rather give it to a real estate agent. Personally, I think the cost to employing them in comparison with your time and if you allocate a cost to the time that you would spend on it, I think it is very fair priced.
Fantastic. And we just touched on evictions now. I think let's just go a little bit deeper there. There's obviously been quite a lot of interest around evictions, especially now. You mentioned the guiding rules of the Disaster Act, where evictions are technically not allowed. Does the landlord, as the legal owner of the property, do they have a right to evict the tenants?
Right now, they can. Things are very close to being normal. So if everything was done correctly, and everything I mean by when the tenant stopped paying, was he informed of the breach in accordance with the lease that he has signed? the rental tribunal stipulate that you need to give him 7 days to rectify the breach. Then thereafter, if he didn't rectify the breach, you need to issue him a final demand, which allow him 20 days to make payment of the arrears account. Now, at that point, you can either do the cancellation of the lease the same time or after the 20 days. We always did it the same time just to save time at the end. Otherwise, you lose another month's rent. So when he did breach the contract and it did not rectify it as required by the letter, then you are allowed to cancel the lease agreement and give him notice of eviction. That notice need to be a 30-day, where a letter of demand for payment of the account is 20 business days. The letter of eviction and time that he is given to move out is 30 days, normal days. So that kind of messes you around as well. But if those steps and those letters weren't done correctly, then you will be sent back from the court to start all over again. And when you do go the legal route and you instruct the attorney to start eviction proceedings, he will ask you firstly, letter account, what is outstanding, lease agreement, letter of demand, letter of breach, then letter of demand, notice of cancellation of lease, notice of eviction. If all of that is in order, then only he will go to court. And then only you go through the legal proceedings.
It's scary when you hear this because, it's 30 days here, it's 20 days there, it's this letter, it's that letter. So obviously a legal eviction can be quite a lengthy process, up to, let's say, 3-4 months maybe. And in this time, the tenant who's not paying has no legal obligation to actually leave the premises. So basically, by us following the correct legal methods, a tenant has a few months of free accommodation, essentially. And after that, if they've proven that, okay, sorry, we are unable to pay the rent that's due, essentially they aren't going to be held liable for anything. So they're not paying their rent and they've had a few months free rental, which sounds like a great deal. But now, what can an agency do then to prevent that as much as possible for the landlord to get into this situation?
Well, Damien, there's a few things which are not 100% correct the way you said it, but let me run through them and explain how it will work out at the end. The agency obviously need to firstly make sure that their accounting is 100% correctly and the appropriate notices are given. And when they advise the landlord to proceed with legal action, you need to do it immediately and not waste time. But agencies and other companies out there do have rental insurances and eviction insurances. These days, they are affordable. About 3 or 4 years ago, it was very expensive. We didn't advise our clients to take it then, but right now, you're talking a few $100. So it's really, really worth it, and it covers a lot of money. The time frame that it takes to evict tenants legally through the court system, the landlord must understand that the agent's responsibility ends when the letter of demand and eviction was given. So after that 30 days and they did not move out, at that point, only the landlord can instruct an attorney to do legal eviction. The tenant cannot, the agent cannot do it on behalf of the landlord. So from that point, the owner and the attorney takes over and push the whole process through. Now, you correctly said it can take 3 months if the tenant does not fight the case. Sometimes they do go to court and fight the case for whatever reason they feel they have. If that happens, it can take up to 6 months. But the lease agreement stipulates that even if there's a dispute between the landlord and the tenant, he is always liable for rent. Although he is not paying, the lease agreement stipulates that he must pay. But if he didn't pay previously, he was probably not going to pay, but he is legally obliged to pay, and he agreed to it in the lease agreement when he signed for it. So at the end, when he is legally evicted, he is definitely liable for that outstanding account. And if he is thrown out of the apartment legally, obviously, not illegally, by the court's instruction, then that account still needs to be paid by the tenant. And I know sometimes, or most of the times, the landlords don't pursue it. They must make sure, if that is the case, make sure that the tenant is blacklisted. Get a company that is registered to get in bad debt or arrears accounts from people. Put them onto the case. Let them get the money from the tenant. Get an agreement from him. Let him do a down payment arrangement with him, but make sure that he is blacklisted so that when he needs to rent somewhere else and that person does proper inspection on this type of person and his tenancy previously, that he can see that this person is not the kind of person that you want in your apartment. So make sure that you get that on record and pursue the money. Get that company to pursue the money. Whatever you can get from him is a bonus. So make sure that you don't just give up and lose it. So it's not really free tenancy that he's getting while he's got the dispute or legal dispute with the landlord. He will be liable if he is the guilty party.
Well, I mean, it's good to hear that there are sort of ways and means that people are looking out for the landlord there. But, you know, you mentioned again previously about a sort of a pre-qualification check. Are there ways and means for a bad tenant to lie in that pre-qualification that they seem like a better tenant than what they actually are?
Yes, well, I think the biggest problem that we've picked up on that side was falsified documents. And I'm referring to bank statements. You know, the stamp from the bank is present on the document, on the statement that's been given to us. So it looks very, very legit. They somewhere got hold of somebody's bank statement, changed the names at the top, and changed the income, because obviously they want to show that the income is big enough that they can afford the place. But you know, if you work it properly, you can see there's sometimes calculation mistakes. You know, when something was supposed to be added, it's deducted and so on. So falsified documents, definitely. The referrals they give with regard to the current landlord or current agent, they sometimes provide friends' telephone numbers. You know, obviously they make arrangements with them, say, listen, I'm applying for this place, this kind of person, or this is a person's name that might phone you. That's a property. When they phone, tell them that I'm renting from you. So if you don't ask the right questions to that person, and we've caught them out plenty of time as well, you know, what property exactly is he renting? How much is he paying? How long has he been renting from you? You know, he says 2 years, the other guy said 5 years, you know, that kind of stuff. So they definitely try, and definitely if you don't do your homework properly, the checks, you will place the wrong person. Even where they work, you know, salary slips, they falsify that as well. You know, 99% of the time when we do get the salary slips, there's no telephone number on it. We have to search for the companies, or if they provide a company telephone number, once again, it's a friend or colleague or somebody that is just vouching for them. So yes, there's means of ways that they have that they can falsify information and referrals as well. So you need to do your work properly when you want to vet a tenant and place him in your apartment.
So it almost seems like, you know, these sly tenants, if we can call them that, they come in with a devious idea of, you know, we're going to get our way around it. And it almost seems like they're getting smarter all the time. And, you know, they're understanding the legal methods and sort of using that to their advantage. So I think in that sense, it also speaks to why there's an importance of having a company that focuses on that, to understand and see where people are trying to, you know, slip by the system and get it done. But now,
Yeah.
you know, say me as a landlord, I've got a tenant that's not paying. Surely I am then within my legal rights to cut off the electricity or the water if it's a non-paying tenant. Is that the case, or is that not really the case?
No, not at all. Not at all. You don't have a legal right to disconnect services. Everybody, landlord and tenant, have the right to water and electricity. So you do not have the right to stop water services or electricity services, especially water. If you really want to end up in jail, you cut water. So no, that is definitely not allowed. You cannot do it. If you do it, you are looking for trouble. I am aware that here and there's some gray areas in the law, but I don't want to even say it because it just causes problems for yourself. If you want to go that route, it causes problems for yourself, which you don't need, which you don't want. Bottom line is they need to pay. You need to stick to the legal requirements. You cannot cut the electricity or water.
But Emile, now, if we turn that around slightly, and let's say there's an instance where a landlord hasn't received rental for a period of time, and obviously the legal proceedings, all of that is still going on to try and claim the funds. But then if the landlord is unable to pay for the rates and taxes and the this and that then gets cut off by the municipality, can the landlord then be held liable for damages by the tenant who is not paying?
In effect, not, but it's a little bit complicated on the legal side of business, which I'm not a lawyer. So let me just say this with regards to that. When the tenant goes to either the rental tribunal or to a lawyer to say, listen, my services has been cut, the landlord then need to prove that he didn't have the ability to settle the account and that he was not the responsible person, in effect, at the end of the day, that was cutting the services. If he doesn't have the funds, what can he do? But once again, it has to be proved in a court of law or at the rental tribunal, which is closely, I don't want to say court of law or legal, but they can give decisions in that regard. But once again, if there is no money to pay, there's no money to pay. The municipalities, I'm sure everybody knows that municipalities, if the account isn't paid, they cut the services. And they only reinstall it once you have paid. You can give them any and all excuses. If it's not paid, it's cut. And you cannot help for it if you do not have the money for it.
Of course. And now, Emile, what is the most creative, unlawful way that you've come across for someone to try and get rid of a non-paying tenant without following the legal methods? Now, obviously, you don't need to give us names or anything, but like, what are some of the more interesting methods you've heard of or seen?
I'll tell you the stories, but I just want to say stay away from it. It is illegal. Listen, yeah, no, I've heard of stories and know of things that happened. Things like people move into the apartment while the people are still in it. You cannot do it, or they send big guys in there, they just go and live inside the apartment, and you can't do it because that is intimidation. The law actually prescribes that you cannot intimidate a tenant at all. You can't do that. And they've let people move into the apartment while the people are still inside. Even a long time ago, people started removing the doors, but not only the front door of the house or the apartment, they remove all the doors because the tenant then take the bathroom door and then put it at the front door, then he's happy again. So they remove all the doors. So those are some of the most hectic stuff that I've heard people do illegally. So no, don't do that. Then you're not allowed to. Rather stick to the legal method. But some people, even in this day and age, still do things like that. But no, we won't do it, and your managing agents shouldn't do it as well. It will just bring you into trouble.
I mean, it does sound really crazy, but people get to that point where they try, weird and crazy things to try and, help themselves and get rid of the tenants. But, I suppose the best way is just to do it properly from the beginning. And, speaking of that, how are the costs calculated for a rental management company to manage it promptly? Is it based on a percentage of income? Is there a set fee? And I mean, I know you can't speak on behalf of everybody, but generally, how is that calculated?
Yeah. General acceptance in the market with regards to rental management, where your agency will place a tenant for you and from that point manage the apartment on your behalf for the period of the lease term. They normally charge a placement fee, which is either 4.5, even up to 6% of the value of the lease. Now, a lot of landlords have a problem with that because then it can be an amount of 2,000, 2,500, 3,000, and that is on entry level rentals. They don't understand it because it's a lot of money. But that is for the work that is done on risk. The agency advertises, which costs a lot of money. They have a lot of vetting and credit checks to do. You know, you have applications which you decline. That doesn't cost the landlord anything. They have to drive up and down for viewings. They have to email, they have to phone, they have to verify previous tenancy. They have to verify their current employment. So there's a lot of work that are being done on risk by the agency. And the only way of recovering those costs is by charging the placement fee. Anything from 4% up to 6% of the value of the lease. The value meaning if the rent is 5,000 Rand a month and it's a 12-month lease, the value is 60,000, so 4% of 60,000. Then to manage the tenant from that point onwards, they charge a management fee, a monthly management fee of anything from between 8 and 10%. And that is only on rental that are being paid by the tenant. So if the tenant is not paying the rent, the agency gets no money. Now, once again, they have to do a lot of work. If the tenant is not paying on time, they have to phone him, they have to email him, they have to phone him again, they have to send him letters, they have to send him notifications by SMS. So there's a lot of work that actually goes in to make sure that they do pay eventually. And they only earn money once there is rent that's being paid. And once again, that includes that 8 to 10% fee per month includes maintenance issues. If you want its inspections done every 3 to 4 months, just to make sure that the tenant look after the place, sometimes they charge an interim inspection fee and sometimes not, and it's covered by the 8 to 10% monthly fee. But they take all the telephone calls, problems and queries from the body corporate, from the tenant and maintenance wise. So I would say, you know, if you look at the amount of money, if you work on 10% on a 5,000 Rand a month lease, they're earning 500 Rand for that amount of work. I would definitely say it's worth it to use somebody like that. It will cost you certainly more to do that every single month. And they obviously need to capture the accounts every month when they get either levy and rates accounts where the services that need to be charged to the tenant when the electricity is not prepaid or water is not prepaid, sewage and refuse needs to be charged. So the accounts need to be done every month and sent out in advance. So there's a lot of work that's actually going in every month that needs to be done. So the 8 to 10% fee monthly, I would say, is very fair as well.
I mean, it almost in that sense seems like a no-brainer, you know, why you wouldn't want to do it. So, I mean,
well,
I think
it's hard work.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people now, they're saying, you know, they might have heard this and thought, you know, yes, I actually do need this. How would they then get in touch with yourself, with your team or the managing properties? How do they get in touch and get more information from you guys?
Well, luckily we can, well, we used to service the whole of the country. We still service the whole of the country with regards to rental management, but we have branched out a little bit and have grown in our footprint. We've employed a service provider that's, well, a strong group nationally in South Africa. So if they do want to get hold of us, they can email us on admin1@destinataholdings.com. Or the people who are members of Wealth Masters, they can contact Wealth Masters directly. And when they come through to us, we will obviously ask the necessary questions with regards to what service do you require, where is the property situated, and then we put them in touch with our service provider in that particular area where the property is. That means there's feet underground where the property is, where the tenants are. If you have properties in different areas of South Africa, you will then deal with a few different service providers, but you will know that they have a presence in the market where your property is. And that is what we've changed late last year, so that we can have a stronger presence in South Africa in every part of the country and to ultimately deliver better service to our clients and to the members of Wealth Masters. So get in touch with us on admin1@destinataholdings.com.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Emile. Now we've sort of run out of time, but don't forget, if you want to enjoy the free full day webinar with the Wealth Masters team, then you need to make sure that you register to secure your place, because there's only a few spots available and you definitely don't want to miss out. So make sure you go to www.wealthmastersclub.com and click on the banner on the homepage, and that will give you your opportunity to register for the webinar, which is on the 3rd of October. For those of you watching live, it's this Saturday, and for those watching an older recording, you'll need to check when the next one is on the website. Please also feel free to share this with your friends who own properties and someone who may have been toying with the idea of using an agent. Share this, share the knowledge, and let them understand why there is the need for that. All of our other videos in our Talking Points playlist is available on Wealth Masters TV, the YouTube channel, and you can enjoy and learn from them. Please also don't forget to subscribe to the channel, click on the bell icon, and that way you'll be notified about the next chat. Emile, once again, thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to chatting with you a little bit later just about more things about property.
Thank you, Damien. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Fantastic. We'll see you guys all soon. Bye-bye.
Well, bye-bye.
And we are off.